Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today I'm going to be reviewing the latest fantasy film coming out of Netflix, The School for Good and Evil. Now, this is a movie that we've been teased about, I think, since last year when Netflix came out with their, coming out in 2022 kind of video. It might have actually been more in the spring. And one thing that we knew for sure was that it had Charlize Theron and Kerry Washington, and that's all we really knew. We didn't really know much more else about that. Now we did get a trailer finally about a month out. Typical Netflix things, giving us a trailer right before it comes out on Netflix itself. And Brian Michaels and myself, we basically kind of came up to the same assumption. It's basically a knockoff Harry Potter meets fairy tales. He said The Descendants, but I've never watched The Descendants on Disney, so I have no recollection of that. But it's a fairy tale version of Harry Potter, where it is a school for good and evil, and it has connective tissues to all the fairy tale heroes and villains in the actual world. And the thought process of it, that's not a bad concept. It really is not. And I say Harry Potter knockoff. I don't mean that necessarily to be a dig, because the Harry Potter franchise is a very, very well profitable thing. And let's face it, the Fantastic Beasts franchise is floundering. And there needs to be something that has that kind of magical wonderness to grab kids and teenagers alike and all that stuff, to bring them back into something like a Harry Potter kind of film to really grab onto. And so The School of Good and Evil definitely could give you that. Now, I didn't know it was a book series. Of course, why wouldn't it have been? I think Brian said it was at least 6 books. We're not 100% sure on that. I know there's at least 3, judging by pictures that I've seen. But the main story follows best friends Sophie and Agatha, who find themselves on the opposite sides of an epic battle when they are swept away into an enchanted school where aspiring heroes and villains are trained to protect the balance between good and evil. Obviously, one side of the school is for the villains, one side of the school is for the heroes. And right away, you kind of can see where the end of this film is going to go. Now, I was looking at it as more of a one movie kind of thing, where Brian looked at it more as this is the first of a franchise, which for me, when it comes to Netflix, that's not a guaranteed thing. So you really need to look at the movie as a one movie kind of approach. And for me, having Paul Feig directing this is, I think, a better thought process than others, because I think it gives more backing to the movie, because you have someone like a Paul Feig who is actually at the helm of this, much like Chris Columbus for the Harry Potter franchise, or even Alfonso Cuarón. But it's the cast that is really what's going to make this movie, make or break. You got Charlize Theron, who basically plays the woman who runs the bad church. You've got Kerry Washington Church at school, and Kerry Washington, who runs the good school. And then you have our main characters, Sophie, played by Sophia Ann Caruso, and Sophia Wiley, played by, who plays Agatha. And both of them, in the real world, Sophia wants nothing more to be a princess. She wants to have that fairy tale lifestyle, be swept away, and find true love and all that stuff. Whereas Agatha is considered a witch by many, because she uses herbs and all that kind of stuff. And so their friendship of being kind of the two weirdos works really well, and they do a good job of establishing this friendship before they get swept off into this school. And like most movies, or like most things in situations like this, where you got two fish out of waters being thrown into a situation, you're gonna find a divide between them. And of course, I was basically predicting everything that was happening in this movie. That doesn't make the movie bad. It just makes it kind of predictable, and writing could be a little better. Now, like I said, problem with that is that this is based off of a book, so you can only do so much without deviating away from the original material, pissing off those fans. But if you're going to tell me, Sean, predict this movie, I'm going to say, well, the good guy group is probably going to be a bunch of people who are douchebags and who think they're better than everybody, and they're actually more the villains of the story. And then you have the villains who are still villains, but they're more of the outcasts. And sure enough, that's exactly the film we get. In terms of performances, I think Sophia Ann Caruso as Sophie and Sophia Wiley, who plays Agatha, I think they both do solid jobs in the film. I do think Sophia Wiley as Agatha does have the better performance, but I think she has more of the emotional weight of the story to carry than Sophia Ann Caruso does as Sophie, because her thing is more, I'm in the wrong school, I want to be good, blah, 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 blah. Whereas Agatha is more kind of trying to break the hierarchy of these two schools. Charlize Theron, when she is given moments to actually kind of bring some levity to her character, I think she actually does a solid job. Kerry Washington, when she's not hamming it up to be a certain kind of way with her character, they do actually let her kind of do some things that's actually pretty solid in the film, but more times than not, Kerry Washington is usually overacting because she's trying to be this, she runs a school of good girls or good, heroes, so she is kind of an over-the-top kind of role. There is a main plot point that follows these brothers, which is intriguing, but the opening number is basically feels like an anime fight scene, which that's one thing that this movie does not so well or overutilizes, is the ability of wire work. And what I mean by wire work, that's when you see the people who are fighting and they get kicked in the air and then they do 15 flips and spins and all that stuff, and it's like, well, clearly they're on wires. And they utilize this to nauseated moments in this film, and they love doing the whole slow motion, watching them spin in the air kind of thing, and it really gets tiring after the opening scene, and they utilize that a lot in this film. There's also some very corny lines, some corny deliveries, some bad acting, like most kind of YA kind of films. But the premise is not bad. There is moments in this movie where it does go down a dark path, and there are moments when I was watching this going, oh wow, they're actually really going down this road. I didn't think they were going to go down this dark path. This might be something that could scare kids, but could also kind of help them understand things a little bit better. So there are a few things that did surprise me about the plot of the film. When we do get to the inevitable end of the movie, it is kind of like you would see in most Harry Potter films. It's people throwing magic at one another and not really, looking like they should be killing a lot of people, but not really doing much damage to one another, which looks visually cool, but it's also kind of mind-numbing because that it's not really killing anybody, even though people are being engulfed in flames, but they seem to be fine while they run through it. In terms of the cast outside of those leads, Michelle Yeoh plays a teacher in the film. I'm blanking off of which character she plays because they completely and utterly misuse her throughout this film. Especially a movie that has fighting in it. Michelle Yeoh is completely not used at all. She has maybe 2-3 scenes tops in the film, and it's a lot of her just standing there and talking. Now, it could be a situation where her character might get utilized more in future installments if we get those, which if that's the case, okay. But you don't put someone like Michelle Yeoh in these films and not have her do any action sequences. When it comes down to it, The School for Good and Evil, I kind of put it right almost there with the very first Harry Potter film, except there is some cringy moments in this movie, like playing a remix version of Britney Spears' Toxic during the big battle sequence that just kind of made me groan. But there are moments there that shows promise that this franchise could do something really good if put in the right hands. I'm not saying Paul Feig did a bad job, but there are certain things that maybe could have done a rewrite or reshot or done in a different way that could have made it a little bit stronger. But once again, they're following a book, so if that's the way the book was written, then you're going to have to either deviate away from the book and piss off a lot of the book fans, or they deviated away from the book and maybe the book was probably better. I don't know. I didn't read the books. But there could have been some scenes that could have been reshot, some characters utilized better, and some certain things with characters that probably could have given them more time to develop instead of feeling like the same old cliche Mean Girls being in a high school kind of setting and you're the outcast kind of thing. There was moments there where there were some very cool visuals, some good sequences, and some good promise to a franchise that, once again, with given the right hands, could turn out to actually be something that a lot of, kids and teenagers could really grab onto and like. It does leave it open-ended for sequels if they decide to go that route, but if they don't, I think this was a solid first attempt for this franchise. If it's just a one-off, it's not something I'd probably go back and rewatch multiple times or anything at all. But like I said, I think the leads did a solid job through this. Even though near the end there was some really bad makeup on one of them that progressively just got more and more worse, and I only can say that much without giving stuff away. Like I said, the cast, the leads were good. The young cast around them, not so much. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, for a Netflix film trying to grab a hold of the Hogwarts Harry Potter at all, I don't think it was a bad attempt, but it's not something to, go overly insane or go, oh my god, this is amazing. It was a average film, good promise there, some good things, some bad things. So overall, it's an okay film by me. So I'm going to give The School of Good and Evil a 61%. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, we get to follow us on all those social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we have a review for Black Adam, as well as... I think after next week's House of Dragon finale, Brian Michaels and myself will be back to do a season wrap-up for She-Hulk, Rings of Power, and the House of Dragon. We also have past reviews for the past week of about 9 different movies, so there's quite a bit on there for you to check out, as well as a non-spoiler and spoiler review for Halloween Ends. So feel free to check out all those videos, and until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.